This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome to episode number 5 of the Wrestling Warzone, the Monday Night Wars retrospective podcast series. I am JT, and joining me, as always, is my partner here on the show, and that is Chad Campbell. Chad, how are you? I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm hungry. So I started doing this intermittent fasting stuff. It's all the rage. So I'd kind of been half doing it, like here and there, but I'm going to try and really buckle down on it. So the concept of it, though, is basically like, you go 16 hours without eating, and then you cram while you're eating into 8 hours. So I'm hungry. I'm about 40 minutes out from my eating zone opening up. So it's we'll see how we do on this show. I might have a lot of anger.
So if you hear a bag of chips open, when
right around the 40-minute mark, yeah. You'll know why.
Well, that's good. I haven't discussed this with you or anybody else, but I'm in the middle of a diet myself.
Very good. All right.
I have lost 20 pounds in the past month, and on the road to trying to get a little more healthier myself. I hate diets, so it has been awful. Like last night for dinner, we had our baked chicken that was dry and green beans and just a dry salad. We use this dressing by Walden Farms that is 0 calorie. It's a 0 calorie dressing. So it's basically water with a few mustard seeds or stuff in it for a honey Dijon.
Yeah.
But I was I and Jennifer's on the diet with me, and we were about halfway through, and I was just like, I can't eat nothing like this. I'm just gonna starve myself. I'd rather starve myself.
Right, than eat this shit.
Because it's been like that for about 3 or 4 weeks. It's more of it's kind of off the keto diet.
Yep.
Where it's
keto
very
guido.
low. Yeah, very low carb. Pretty high protein in the end of the day, but for lunch has been the hardest thing for me. I did cheat. I ate a sandwich before we started today, so today was my cheat meal. But typically for lunch, I'm only supposed to eat veggies and stuff, so bell peppers, pickles.
Right.
It's not been fun, but I have seen some results, so that's good. I'm gonna stick it out.
Right. That's usually what helps when you get the results. It keeps it going. I've had my most success just putting myself on a calorie count, and if you work out, you gain more, and if you don't, you don't. So I just used the Fitbit app, and then I had kind of been doing the fasting thing, and then the cowboy mentioned that he was doing it because he heard someone on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about it or something. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try.
Why is he doing that? He's 130 pounds soaking wet.
Who the fuck knows? He probably won't last. He doesn't last long in these things usually, unless money's involved. Then I'll stick with it. But
yeah, well, that's kind of. this. Mainly, I did this just to get in a little better shape for Disney World, so we'll see. Because Disney World, all bets are off on that trip. Right. We got some free dining, so I'm definitely going to be utilizing the deluxe burger and stuff like that. So,
have you been having mustard greens? So I'm not they don't have them too often at work, but I try and do a light lunch with a vegetable side at work, and they make it easy. They're very fit oriented, and they had mustard greens the other day, and I did not enjoy them. They just tasted like dirt was all over them.
Yeah, this wants you to eat a lot of kale.
Right. I don't like kale.
I'm not crazy about kale, and I am so used to collards is an acceptable vegetable for me to eat. But, I like collard greens or turnip greens, but I'm used to the way my grandmother made them with, the ham
fried
and everything. Yeah. So it's not, same with okra. Oh, yeah, I love fried okra, but not just like
plain okra.
Or stewed. Yeah, it's gross. So that's been an adjustment, some of that stuff. So like I said, it's been a lot of like bell peppers and
cucumbers. Get into cucumbers.
Yeah, cucumbers. I've done cucumbers
Carrots.
a lot, pickles, a lot of. We actually can't eat carrots.
No? What's in them?
No. I don't know. It's Jennifer's the one that talks to the person. She runs like this store locally.
Yeah.
And it's basically like any vegetable that retains a lot of water, I guess, because like we can only have spring mix lettuce too.
Okay.
Like we can't have iceberg lettuce or even romaine because it's mostly water.
Okay.
Supposedly. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But yeah, like typically before when I've been on diets, I've done best with either just calorie counting or so kind of like a Weight Watchers type system or if there's money involved, certainly. So this is probably the best I've done just sort of kind of on my own initiative doing something different. So again, we'll see how it goes. But so far, I guess so good.
All right. Well, congratulations.
And I haven't,
that's a great mark so far.
Yeah, I haven't been, like with my schedule, I haven't been exercising either. So if I could enter some more of that into the picture, which I should now that T-ball's over with,
right.
That should only help.
Yeah. Oh, it'll definitely help for sure. And you'll start burning more, and you'll have a little bit more room for other stuff. So, all right. Well, good job. We'll track your progress. Put it on the counter. We'll track
Chad's weight loss.
You're going to be nothing by the time we get to like 2000 or something.
Well, I tell you what, watching these 95 Raws is not helping because I'm wanting to snack on some chips or something.
Get you through them? Okay. Well, we are going to start with Raw tonight, but before we get to that, we've kind of introduced a new segment here over the last couple episodes, and basically it's a kind of a rip-off of what you and Parv used to do and where the big boys play, but we're going to tweak it. We're going to put a twist on it, and that is going through the Dave Meltzer, the old observers. So you're going to run that segment for us, Chad. So why don't you tell us about kind of the way we're handling it versus what you and Parv used to do?
Well, and where the big boys play, Parv would read the stories kind of between our own show, the last show we did, and up to the show we were watching. So you would get the news kind of after the fact, like whatever happened on the show, the aftermath, like we'd get the explanation for that before we reviewed the actual show. We're going to do it a little bit different on this show where we're going to view a show kind of blind. So, like we'll watch this week's Raw and Nitro, or we'll watch the pay-per-views of the respective companies. And then I'm going to read the issue of the Observer that corresponds with that, just to kind of get clarification, because it's kind of organically, like we discovered with the Thursday Raw mishap, what was going on there. And as we'll see in some follow-up notes from what we watched at In Your House 3, we've kind of, that's been some of our better discussion points, kind of organically trying to piece some of this stuff out. And I think the Observer, shockingly, kind of around 1995, adds a lot of like context and stuff. It's pretty comprehensive.
Well, you have to wonder if it's you have to wonder if, because I know Cornette was like a big part of the like the Titan Sinking series, especially around this time. So you wonder if like he was filtering stuff to Dave during this point for them.
And you have Pillman. You have Pillman on the WCW side too.
Right.
So at this point in time, you have Foley in ECW, Cornette in WWF, and Pillman in WCW. So that's three, big Dave sources over the years that were in the three major companies.
Right.
So a lot of stuff came through the pipeline, I would assume.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, all right. So why don't you go ahead and brief us on what you read about In Your House 3?
So the first thing was, I guess the biggest news, honestly, was what happened before the show where they had the meeting where Bill Watts was introduced to the promotion and was going to be taking over most of kind of the storyline aspects, running the television, stuff like that. And this seemed to be kind of a counteraction to going live. So this was sort of a direct counteraction against Nitro that Vince did, reaching out to Bill Watts and bringing him in. And it'll be interesting to see how things develop going forward. I know a lot of people kind of like his little run here. It's pretty brief.
I remember it being good. And it's funny because the first pay-per-view we get under his is kind of maligned, but I remember the TV gets pretty good, and like you'll see it almost immediately, like the way they book, and especially like with the heels start to become more dominant. We'll see, and not as goofy. And it's funny because we did compare Raw in their new format to Mid-South. Remember a few weeks ago,
right?
Kind of embracing being taped. And not kind of hiding that fact, and I feel like we'll see that kind of play out even more with Watts. So it's an interesting signing that Vince went to, and it'll be cool to track over the next few weeks if we feel a tangible difference. But from my memory, it ends up definitely ticking up the quality of the TV.
Yeah, I don't know if he, how quickly he integrated himself in, but even just with the show we're going to watch tonight, I think there was a few differences that you could see. Just as far as cohesion was concerned for the show overall. So that was one thing. And then the next thing we have is kind of a follow-up to the Diesel, Jean-Pierre Lafitte stuff we talked about earlier, and this was kind of more confirmation for us. So I'm just going to quote Dave here. He says, the rematch between the two on 9/16 in Quebec City saw Lafitte do a leg drop off the top rope, and wound up landing with his butt on Diesel's face. Diesel got up immediately and started throwing hard punches and jackknifed him for the pin. One WWFer told me the scheduled finish was another double countout, but since the night before, Lafitte was saying he'd do the job anywhere but Montreal, where we heard that before. I don't know if that was the case, but they were the topic of all the dressing room talk. Anyway, by the end of the week, every problem was cleared up, and that's probably why Lafitte did the clean job for Raw next week, which we'll get to. But, that does show, like, he does say it's cleared up, but it does seem like,
he pissed off the wrong people, basically.
Yeah, he was on the click shit list, so that certainly probably didn't help his case. Then we talked about Bam Bam and his match versus Davey Boy, kind of looking maligned, and Dave had a couple of throwaway lines. One, he said Bam Bam is trying to get into New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that shows that he's, pretty checked out as far as his WWF career is concerned. And I thought this one was interesting where Razor Ramon is trying to broker a deal with All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Really? That's weird.
So already Razor's kind of looking for other avenues.
Well, you could see him getting kind of bored probably where he's at. He probably didn't see himself moving up past IC, and I think it was in the Titan books too that talked about him being kind of pissed when they bailed on the heel turn where he was going to fight Taker at Mania. Like, I think he was pretty pumped about that. I'm pretty sure it goes into it there, and him being disappointed that they didn't go forward with it. So you wonder if he was getting kind of frustrated with his position by this point, just kind of getting bored with doing the same shit. I mean, he's been a face in the IC division for 2 years now at this point because he turned face in like August of 93, won the IC belt in September. So, I mean, he's done a lot of great stuff, but he's pretty much been treading water on the card for 2 years now.
Yeah, I'd say, probably after like the summer of 94, it was pretty clear he probably wasn't going to get a run at like the WWF title.
Right. And especially once Diesel won it. Once that happened for sure.
Yeah. D'Lo Brown got his tryout match before this Raw, which is kind of interesting. Somebody we may be seeing coming up. And then, sadly, Barry Dudinsky has disappeared.
I had that called out in today's recap, so I'm glad we got the answer.
Apparently, WWF saw that he finished on top of a recent poll of what wrestling personality would you like to see powerbomb. So I don't know if that's some Dave humor or a legit PWI poll, but there you have it. Then we had one little tidbit from WCW. Where he talks about, and this is something we kind of see too, like the New Japan WCW relationship was at a fever pitch in 95 with the Starrcade stuff. It's been dwindling, or it'll be ramping up, but here, we're kind of starting to get into that. But there was talks of Randy Savage coming in to New Japan, and Dave says negotiations to bring Randy Savage in November seem to have stalled since Savage asked for $30,000 per match. And isn't worth anywhere close to that at the box office in Japan. Then he also says don't expect Hogan back with New Japan either. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird that and he even mentions this. He says, it's kind of funny because WCW and New Japan are running a promotion versus promotion angle in Japan in November and in WCW for Starrcade, but New Japan is keeping Muto, Hashimoto, and Choshu out of the angle to save them for the more heated UWFI feud, which was also going on at the same time. So that's a little bit of tidbits there from Dave.
All right. Not bad. I like it. All right. So like we decided in the past, we're going to start with Raw because we're going to, if we have a pay-per-view in the last episode, we're going to start with the next night of the show following the pay-per-view. So when we have a WCW pay-per-view, we'll open with Nitro. WWF pay-per-view will open with Raw, and then the other weeks we'll kind of flippity-flop around. So this episode of Raw, Chad, is from the Grand Rapids Grand Center in Michigan. Of course, they were just in Saginaw for the pay-per-view, so it made sense that they stayed here. Vince McMahon, Jerry Lawler on commentary, as usual. And that's that. So why don't you go ahead and walk us through the show?
And this, we'll say this is our first live versus live
matchup
of the Monday Night Raw. Or Monday Night Wars. So Vince opened us up saying it's going to be Taker versus Davey Boy Smith tonight. So that's a pretty big main event. We saw Davey Boy elevated on the pay-per-view. Get Taker, definitely your bearer of guard bearer and everything. So
yeah,
pretty good.
And they hyped it big last night too. Oh well, on the pay-per-view the night before in your house.
Right.
They plugged this a few times. So.
We do show a clip of Davey Boy Smith subbing for Owen at In Your House. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of flips us right into a backstage, I guess, look-in, where earlier in the day we saw Gorilla Monsoon discussing things with Jim Cornette and Clarence Mason.
Yes, his new lawyer.
Our first look at Clarence.
Which, did you feel it was earlier than you had thought?
Well, I mean, this is a weird time frame for me. I was 9 years old, mm-hmm. So I knew who Johnny Cochran was. Obviously knew about the OJ thing, but, I wasn't watching, Court TV or anything daily, excuse me, at 9 years old. So I kind of got the parody, but I guess I didn't. Johnny Cochran was probably one of the most influential people in the U.S. for sure, in 94, 95, or one of the most recognizable.
Correct. Infamous,
yeah, infamous. So, I guess, doing a complete parody of him isn't maybe the worst idea at this point in time, but...
Well, I don't know. I feel like he pops up a little sooner than most may remember, though, because, his big stuff is a year later when he's there with Bulldog and Owen and becomes a manager and all that shit. So he's actually here, even Crush, all that stuff comes not till late 96. So he's already here now. I do think he's involved in the Vader shit early in 96 that we'll see, but I think if you had to ask a knowledgeable enough wrestling fan knows who Clarence Mason is and you ask him when he debuted, I would think this would seem early to them that, he was around then already. But no, it was a good character. The guy playing him played him real well. He was good in the role, and I think it was rarely topical for them. It was it made sense to have a lawyer similar. Herman Stevens is the guy's name, by the way, not real Clarence Mason's name. Of course, he'd later be Jay Biggs in WCW as well. He's an actual attorney too. So
from the Paul Bear school.
Yes, he attempted to get a foot. He always wanted to be a WWF superstar. No experience getting from the door is difficult for an aspiring law student. While in college, unsuccessfully attempted to obtain an internship with WCW. While in law school, he befriended Ernie Ladd, who got him a meeting with the WWF and was signed by Vince McMahon in '95. So yeah, there was playing off the publicity lawyers that had gotten during the O.J. Simpson trial. Character and speaking style based on Johnny Cochran. His stage name was a play on Clarence Darrow and Perry Mason. So there you go.
Oh, there we go. Now, how old was he when he was? So he was 30.
Yeah, 30, pretty much on the dot. He was born in 65.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, he obviously looked younger than Johnny, but
yes, quite a bit.
Yeah, that's pretty young. So, good for Clarence. He got a little bit of notoriety from this role. Yeah, I've always remembered him being, a pretty good C-level manager. You know, above your Frenchie Martins and whatever, of course.
Yes.
But
Frenchie's an F.
Kind of. Probably about on the level of a Colonel Robert Parker. You think that's fair? That type of level manager?
Maybe a touch lower. Parker's kind of on the where do you have Slick? So your A's is what? Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart,
Bobby,
Blassie,
Cornette, and Dylan or whatever.
Right.
B, I'd probably put like Sherry,
Slick,
maybe Slick. Yeah, Slick was pretty prominent. Stuff like that. And
I'd put Parker on that level with a Sherry and a Slick.
Okay.
Like, he was around enough. Like, Mason kind of falls in that bucket of, if he was around longer, maybe gets up to a B, but kind of a short-lived, pretty good manager.
Maybe like Estrada or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good comp, yeah.
Okay. So we'll see. But this kind of results in the shoddy finish from the night before, where Gorilla, they kind of go back to what Gorilla said about like 3 people can't hold the belt or something like that, which is a little convoluted, but I guess sort of made sense. But I did feel like this was a pretty cheap way to say, oh, well, Owen and Yoko are still the champions. They try to kind of bypass by that pretty quickly by saying, oh, well, you're defending the belts tonight versus the Smoking Guns. And, of course, Cornette flips out at that. But I don't know. I didn't like that. I mean, because you built your pay-per-view around like a title change happening, and then it really didn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was definitely a shady way to go about it, and we knew they booked themselves into the corner, and with all that. So so the Guns are back in the title picture, which is funny because they've kind of really been aimless since like In Your House 1. Like they've really done nothing. Yeah. No other feuds or anything. They've just been kind of existing.
I guess that jobber win a couple weeks ago
was setting it up.
Projected them into the number 1 contendership.
It's funny because like Cornette's wicked pissed, but Owen had the night off last night. Like Yoko, sure, he worked. So I mean, it's not that bad. Okay, well you're getting your belts back, you know.
And they pretty much squashed them at Mania too.
So it's not like that big of a challenge. It's like they said they have to fight Diesel and Shawn again or something. You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean it did feel like kind of a ridiculous like freak out for Cornette a little bit of overacting there for him to be so appalled that they had to defend them. I mean, what's he think? They're never going to have to defend their belts again? I mean, Smoking Guns are not a terrible opponent to defend against. And that sort of leads us into our first match, which is Skip there with Sonny. And he's facing another return, Marty Jannetty. So we had 2 debuts already. Clarence Mason and then Marty Jannetty back, and Marty had been around in over a year, right? Yeah,
so I meant to ask you this. So on our debut tracker, are we counting like guy because he's been on Raw before, but are we saying debut in our series basically?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's interesting because I mean he has been on the show,
right?
But I would say we can't count Jannetty.
Okay,
actually, we'll count Mason.
Yeah.
But, I would say a debut, kind of into the promotion, but somebody that hasn't been on the show.
Okay.
So, I mean, because we did count, VK Wall Street or whatever.
It was his first ever appearance on Nitro. So, so Jannetty's been on Raw. Yeah, he's been gone since he left right before, WrestleMania 10. He was doing all that stuff with him and Kid against the Quebecers and Johnny Polo. It was, a pretty hot feud from 93 into 94. And he was supposed to fight Polo on a Raw, and then he got replaced by Kid, and that was it. He vanished. He was fired. So I want to say that was maybe February of 94. So he's been gone at least since he was in the Rumble, so he was around toward late January. But it's been a while, a year and a half or so.
So
it was good. I like the way they did it too. I thought it was really Vince. You just hear the music, and Vince is like, Marty Jannetty, he comes running out. So it was a cool moment. I actually liked it. It was a good addition for the mid card.
Of course, wearing his rocker gear that he never could go past.
Never give it up.
No. So a hot start for Marty, and Skip bails to the outside to hug Sonny. Marty blows a kiss at Sonny. And then I thought there was a very fun spot that played off of that right after that where Skip rolls to the outside again. Marty sneaks up from behind and punches him. And then Marty ends up hugging Sonny, who had her back turned really quickly. She realizes it's Marty. She goes to punch Marty. He ducks, and she ends up hitting Skip.
Yeah.
And then Marty's running around with his fist up in the air. The crowd's going bananas.
He was wicked fired up. Yeah, they were going crazy.
It was pretty awesome. That was very Memphis-y.
Yeah, and that's kind of been my take, like, you can see a lot of that here. I don't know if it was Cornette's influence or just, like, because Shawn and Marty kind of worked Memphis and grew up, like, in the territory. Like, Shawn, that's what I've talked about before as a face, does a lot of that comedy in his matches. It's very Memphis-y, too. So, I feel like, I don't know if this is them in particular, if it's Cornette's influence or what, but you see it a lot out of Shawn and now Marty, too. And speaking of Marty's tights, by the way, it looked like a wife beater he was wearing. He had, like, just, like, a plain black top with the colored tights. It was odd.
It was a, like, black muscle shirt that kind of odd there. Skip's able to get on top and has some good offense on top. Pretty basic stuff, but it was entertaining. Marty starts his comeback. Sunny, her interference backfired throughout the match, and Sunny definitely felt like she was becoming pretty notable. I thought, like she is getting a reaction from the fans. The sex appeal is not there, but it's
no, she's almost goofier.
It's getting amped up. Yeah, she's a little more. I don't know how to describe it. Like
bumbling in a way. Like they both are presented as bumbling,
yes,
as a stooge. She 96 is when it turns to her being like more of like a sex symbol and smart. Like she's positioned as wily starting in 96. Like here, she's just kind of like bumbling and fucking up all the time and shit.
Yeah, her interference keeps backfiring. Skip ends up going to the outside because she pulls down the rope and all that. It does finally pay off for her where she trips Marty's foot. We get kind of the Warrior Rude WrestleMania 5 pin, but that only gets 2. And then right after that, Marty gets the rocker dropper and the fist drop from the top, and he picks up the win. So I was kind of surprised that Marty got a win back on his debut.
I wasn't. Skip's been doing nothing. I mean, he lost to the Horowitz. Like, you could tell they didn't really have much faith in Skip. So I can see them wanting to keep Jannetty kind of strong coming in.
What's with the, like, job? I guess they're jobbing Skip more than I would hope for.
Right.
But this ended up going about 8 minutes. I thought it was a really fun match. Honestly, up to this point, my favorite Raw match we've seen. So I went 2 3/4 actually. Really energetic. Good to see Marty. I always like Marty.
Some of us even had him on our top 100.
Yeah, well, that's true. I probably should have had him sneaking in. But and Skip, I've always liked Candido as a worker too. So this feels like kind of 2 underutilized guys that maximized their time they did have for this match to have a very enjoyable opener.
Yeah, and they I think interact again at like Survivor Series and maybe a couple other times too, and they're always pretty good together. They have good chemistry. I like Skip's powerbomb. I thought that was pretty good in this match. And I don't know if you mentioned, did you mention Dean Douglas coming out?
Oh, no. Yeah, that's right. So Dean does come out.
That was a nice touch, him coming out. He's scouting in the aisle. Right. So he's, kind of moved on a little bit from the Razor stuff. He's out there scouting away. So I do like that part. As well, and then I thought overall Skip's offense was good. I thought it was smooth in the win for Marty, and I thought Skip showed well even in the loss. So even if he's settling in now to like, sure he's probably not getting the push he deserves, but at the very least you're using him to like get other guys over, and he's looking good in that role. So maybe it'll pay off for him, right? So like for right now he's working hard. He's killing it out there, and it's not his fault. He's got a hot girlfriend that all the clique wanted to bang, but he's gonna pay for it. As we'll see. So, but no, a good opener. I went 2.5. I enjoyed it.
All right. So after that, that was all segment 1. So pretty long segment 1.
Yeah.
We come back. We get a rundown again of how Gorilla had to change the titles back.
And I enjoyed this. Like Clarence Mason's just working circles. Like Gorilla looks so lost. He's just like staring at him.
Well, Vince calls it embarrassing.
It is. It was embarrassing.
He shits on Gorilla there.
Gorilla looked lost. He just looks so lost. He's just like staring at him. He's like. It's like a grandfather, like some kid explaining video games to a grandfather. He's just like staring blankly at him. It's like Clarence Mason's just working around him. I enjoyed that. It was real funny.
Gorilla does say a match with Diesel Shawn will happen, and the match versus the Guns will be for the titles tonight again. So that's basically kind of a rehash of what we saw in the first segment.
Right.
Again, really driving that home. And then Doc is out there, and he is still shilling the awful T-shirt and
I love
the
it. Pro Ball Cheerleaders VHS tape.
Generic classic VHS tape that has no description on it whatsoever.
And this was my big note here. No more Dudinsky with 3 question marks. But
no more Dudinsky.
Barry's gone.
Yeah, sadly.
That summer of 95 is like a weird time warp. Like, he was there, And then, actually, it might be to the end of 95, but they have that other ring announcer, that like Manny Garcia, whatever. He does some pay-per-views in 95, and it's just like this weird warp where like wrestlers existed and personalities existed and vanished. I don't know, Charlie Min might have been in here too at some point. He might have been 94, actually, but there's like a lot of randomness pops up in this summer of 95 era that doesn't really go beyond it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, so how long did Didinsky actually last? Overall, from
I'd have to check back through like
couldn't have been much.
Me and Scott's Raw recast, but I want to say maybe was he at Mania or was he around Mania time? I don't know. Graham doesn't have him listed. Let me see. Actually,
essentially about a Mike Adamle linked run, then probably.
Well, you know what's weird? No, I think Dave's wrong because Graham has Didinsky into late '95 still.
Oh. Well, I guess we'll see.
Because, he starts doing the fucking pogs and everything. Doc, I know Doc takes it over in 96, like, full-time. He starts doing the store. But, no, Graham has Didinsky as late as the 12-4 Raw, so.
All right, well, we'll see. We can pull a Bruce Pritchard and shit on Dave if he was wrong. But, well, that's one to track then, if Didinsky is really gone or not. Very important. And that leads us to our big title match, which is Yokozuna and Owen Hart versus the Smoking Guns. Mm-hmm. They go to break right before the match starts, and I will say, like, they really push the live aspect of this show.
Yes.
Like, before, as we talked about, they've showed clips of matches that are coming up on the show, but here, when they come back from break, it has live in huge letters in the box in the upper left-hand corner, and Vince, of course, is like, we're live in Grand Rapids, and so he is very excited to be live. And we get a title match, tag title match, a hot start from the Smoking Guns. I thought, it's always kind of stated like how kind of secretly big and tall Billy Gunn is.
Yes.
And I thought this match kind of played that off well, where when he's squaring off with Yoko, and actually gets the better of him and takes him off his feet. Mm-hmm. It looks kind of competent. It doesn't look like a fluke.
Right,
And then I loved right after that, like when he takes Yoko off his feet, I can't remember Vince's direct quote, but it's something like, oh, is this the night? Is this the historic, something like that. And then immediately after, Yoko gets a Samoan drop and squishes Billy, and then King is like marking on commentary and does basically, is this the night? Is this like mocking Vince, which I enjoyed. And that led right to our heat segment where Billy was worked over for most of the match. Again, with Yoko on top, you're always due for a nerve hole. And then we got one here, but pretty quick. I mean, I don't think Yoko has been as devalued as I had assumed going in.
Right.
Like, he continually still seems like a pretty big deal with a pretty big presence at this point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we talked about it last week. I mean, he hangs on for a bit with this presence. Like, and he may be one of the best protected guys they ever did with a heel. Like, for like not like a super duper guy, but like a next tier down. Like, he was like always presented as just a monster and really well protected. Even when he lost, his big matches was always kind of fluky. Like, the Hogan thing at 9, Brett at 10 was kind of fluky. The count out to Luger. Like, how many clean losses did he have during his peak run? Right.
Yeah. I mean, he's up there with like Lesnar because that rolls right into the finish here where there's some miscommunication. They're able to drop kick Yoko out of the ring. There was kind of a weird spot where I think he was supposed to break up a pin, but he kind of didn't do anything, and then the ref just sort of stopped counting. So that was a little awkward. But, yeah, they isolate Yoko and are able to get the pin on Owen, and we have new tag team champions. Big pop for the Guns. I thought this was a very rock-solid tag match. Mm-hmm. Enjoyed it. I went 2.5 stars on this one, as just slightly below the opener, but I enjoyed this as well. And this was another kind of longish match. It went about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I dug it, too. I thought Yoko looked great beating Billy up in the corner. Like, he really kicked the shit out of him. He looked real nasty in that. Owen's always smooth. The Guns, I thought, kept up. They also did a lot of WrestleMania special promotion during this match for that. It must have been re-airing, because it already aired, right? Wasn't it like last week they were plugging it as airing soon?
Well, Vince says on commentary it's Saturday night on Fox. So
okay.
I think this may be.
So this is the actual airing then?
Yeah, I think this is the airing.
Okay. I thought they had said it was next week when we talked about it last time, but it could have been off. So yeah, he plugs the hell out of it here for sure. Yoko, yeah, that slowed things down with the nerve hold. I like the hot tag. I like the finishing segment where I like that Yoko's miscue kind of finally cost them. Like they've had some near hits with that, like him fucking up or Owen fucking up, but they've always survived. And now it kind of ended their epic run that they've had with Yoko fucking up and landing on Owen. The pop was great. I don't think probably the fans really expected back-to-back title changes, so that was cool.
No, yeah.
And I liked it. It was a good clip outside of the nerf hold. They really kept up the pace. The Guns are back in control after their summer of dominance from Yoko and Owen. And I thought it was time to end that team like as champions. Like they had a real good run from Mania till here. It was good to get the division kind of back up and running and get them back. You know, Yoko and Owen are both guys that could be used better probably in the heel side as we talked about how weak the heel side was. So maybe it's time to elevate Owen a little bit more again and use Yoko a bit as well. So I thought it was good timing to get the belts off of them and let the Guns kind of get back to controlling the division for a while. Because they really haven't yet. I mean, when you think of the Guns, when you think of the Guns, you think of them as like just kind of dominating the tag division, like their whole run while they were there, because the division was kind of down. But they do nothing in '93. They do nothing in '94. And it's not until they win the belts in early '95. But even then, they get hurt. They're out of the tournament. And they only have them for 3 months, and then that's it. So this is really where they kind of start their run of dominance, and it only lasts a year. So it's funny because you think this is like the Guns era, but they really aren't. Like it's not their era for more than like a year or so.
Yeah, I mean, like even with the '94 stuff at the beginning of '94, you had kind of the Head Shrinkers, Bob Holly, all that mixed in, Jannetty.
Yeah, I mean, none of the Guns don't do anything. Like they just kind of exist for like a while. Like not until early '95 do they suddenly get shot up into the mix. So and even late '94 they're on like Luger's team at Survivor Series, so that's kind of where it starts. But no, their first like 16 months they didn't really do anything.
I wonder if Men on a Mission kind of stunted them a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's possible, and I think Jannetty and Kidd kind of hitting a bit during that stretch probably hurt, and then the Head Shrinkers face turn. Like, yeah, it seemed like every time maybe they'd be next up, a face team got in their way. Like it started with the Signers, and then it kind of went from there. But yeah, it seemed like now was finally the time for them to ascend. There's like no other competition. The Allied Powers flamed out, and it's kind of like, all right, well, who else is even there as face tag teams? I'm trying to think, are there even any other ones? Like legitimate ones? Like I can think of some crappy heel team. I guess Techno Team 2000. I don't know if they're even around anymore, but
yeah, I can't think of any either. I mean, Jannetty being back, he's always good to slot in, but not right now. So
yeah,
we'll see. And then
I went 2.25 on that. So same as you, a tick down from the opener. So
a little bit down. But yeah, same sentiment. And the Dudes with Attitudes come out. It was here, right, or was it at the actual end of the show?
No, they come out here to celebrate, and then again at the end they're all together.
Yeah,
but yeah, they come out here to celebrate Owen and Yoko losing.
And they did show them like backstage watching it, with their like sarcastic looks on their faces.
So, but it's kind of a nice, it's like a nice rub for the Guns that the
I guess
don't care enough to come out and congratulate them.
Week by week, I'm becoming less infatuated with Diesel and Sean as we watch these shows.
Well, it's not much longer that they're really tied together because Sean goes out soon, and then when he comes back, they're pretty much separate. So
yeah, it feels like right now they kind of have carte blanche to do whatever. Like we didn't, they didn't. I mean, they mentioned Brett a little bit in this match with Owen and. Vince was like, he had a classic with Lafitte last night, or great match or whatever, but Brett wasn't mentioned much at all in this episode.
No.
So that was kind of downgrade. And then I think we had the Doc Hendricks interview with Gorilla, right?
Yes, yep.
Nothing much here. They do announce In Your House 4.
Yeah, and I like the way they did this. It felt organic. They catch up on EOS 4 and actually Survivor Series too, because they say Brett. Oh, they do mention Brett here, right? They say he's going to fight the champion.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. They do.
So they announced that British Bulldog's taking on Undertaker. I mean, British Bulldog's taking on Diesel at EOS 4 for the title, and then Brett gets the winner of Survivor Series. But the way they did it, I thought was well done. It's like they're in the aisle. Gorilla comes out. He talks to Doc. It feels natural, and then it's like he just made these decisions and he's coming out to explain them. And then I thought he made everything make sense and seem important. Like he laid it out in like a very concise way that wasn't convoluted. It's like, all right, British Bulldog's been hot. He's earned a title shot. He's going to fight Diesel, and Bret Hart's the next in line, so he gets the Survivor Series title match. Like, it boom, boom, boom. It all makes sense. Bret will be in the house at In Your House 4. He'll be there to watch, whatever. So I thought he did a nice job summing up the next, 2 months of title matches.
Yeah, and that continues, your fan favorite, Gorilla Monsoon, too. Right. So that works as well. So
it gives you something to long-term booking, but not too set in stone. So it's fluid, but it's laid out for us.
And that did feel like a Bill Watts move.
Yeah.
I mean, that certainly did. And then we're up to our main event, right, where it's The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the first we've seen of him, actually.
Yeah, and right? Scott always used to call that out in the written when we did this in writing, that Taker was very underutilized on Raw. I'm not sure I can look quick when the last time he's been on before this, but no, we definitely have not seen him because he wasn't in Your House either, so we haven't talked about it at all.
So it took the third Raw and pay-per-view that he was not on.
So his last one, so this is 925, his last match on Raw was 8/21, he fought Tatanka.
Okay.
And then before that, it was 6/19.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so that's crazy. Yeah. So, 3 months, he's only been on once. Yeah. And 8/21, that would have been the go home to SummerSlam, right?
Yeah, it might have been 2 before. It was, I think it was the last episode of Raw before SummerSlam, but I don't know if it was the actual go home because maybe they had the U.S. Open in there. So, but it was the final Raw before SummerSlam.
So either way, like we said, a pretty good spot again for Davey. He's
actually, it probably was the go home because SummerSlam would have been the next Monday. So
right. So Davey's certainly interjecting himself now into the upper echelon of the roster.
Oh yeah, fully elevated to main event now.
Definitely.
He's in. Yeah,
he's in. And he had his white tights here.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought those looked very good.
Yeah.
And this match, I didn't think this was awful, and I thought this was kind of one of those matches that you could point to with Taker starting to improve a little bit in ring.
Right.
Not as just, monster formulaic as he was in his early run. I think that's kind of interesting how that works because, I don't think the matches versus Kama and this one, they're certainly not classics or very good. But you do see some signs of him changing and evolving and developing his style. And you saw that here mostly in the work that was done on his leg. I thought Davey did a really good job working that out on his leg. He clips him on the outside. Taker's selling more for the leg, limping around, doing a good job of that.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So this was a pretty sound kind of power man match with Davey working an appendage. It was pretty good. Now the finish here, Taker's making his comeback. It looks like he may take the victory, and we get Mabel coming out.
Right, and that's setting up In Your House because they're fighting it In Your House. So
right,
the teasing that, and this is to kind of rectify King of the Ring, where Mabel fucked Taker over.
And it does set up In Your House, and it also kind of protects really either one of these two to do a job.
Right.
And so Mabel comes out, we get the stare down, then we end up, the ending result is the Dudes with Attitude coming out as well. So it ended up being a DQ victory. I didn't expect, you don't expect Taker to lose clean, of course. Yeah. And they don't want Davey to lose. So I wasn't bothered by that.
No, it makes sense.
But yeah, I thought this was, perfectly solid. Again, nothing very good. I ended up going 2 stars on this one, but I think my enjoyment is probably a little bit better than the grade I ended up with.
Right, and it's only 7.5 minutes too. So it was an enjoyment. Yeah, we get a lot of those on Raw, right? Where technically it's probably 2-star or less, but they're actually pretty enjoyable, right? So it's not slogging, it's not dying, it's not eating up, wasting time like that fucking tag match you watched last week with the Kamo one, where it's actively bad.
Yeah.
But I liked Taker's power offense was pretty good. I liked him going after Cornette. We see Mabel comes out in the aisle during the match, and he's just kind of watching. And so does Waylon Mercy, by the way, which I thought was an interesting touch and maybe a good sign for his push. Because after last night, you assume, all right, lost to Vega, he's moving down. Now they have him out here ostensibly scouting Undertaker and tying him to Undertaker, right? Because why else is he out here? He's not for Bulldog. So I thought that was pretty interesting, too. I thought the crowd was good. They were locked in. A real nasty pile driver by Bulldog for 2. Like, I like that spot. The choke slam was good. I thought both guys were crisp and pretty locked in. And I agree with you. The Mabel thing is fine, but it did ruin what I thought was becoming a pretty good match. Like, I think if we did get a finish, it might have went over 2 stars. But I did like Mabel's belly to belly. Like, I thought he really hit that pretty well. And yeah, this was a feisty match. I went 2 stars too. And then you mentioned Bulldog and Mabel. They're beating down. Diesel and Shawn make the save, but then Owen and Yoko come out. And then we get the guns come out from the shower. They still got soap on them, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like he had it on his chest. He looked like somebody had busted a load on the back.
It's all over their chest. But yeah, no, they had their jeans on, but like they were barefoot. So they basically like made it like they jumped out of the shower, threw their jeans on, and ran to the ring.
A preview of Billy and Chuck.
Yes,
Billy Gunslinger.
Got a load on his chest, his jeans unbuttoned, no shoes on. So I thought it was a fun ending. You know, they kind of draw the lines in the sand. So Watts is kind of establishing the clear face, clear heel here. You got who's aligned. You got Bulldog, Mabel, Owen, Yoko, Diesel, Shawn, the Guns. Like they're all kind of setting up sides at this point. But I like the whole match and segment. I thought it was pretty well executed. Better than you expect when you look at this on paper. And that goes for the whole show. Like I thought the whole show was really good. It was it moved fast. It was like just everything went right into the next. There's no time wasted really.
Yeah, I guess I can reveal now. Like I thought, for what we've seen so far, I thought the 2 shows we saw tonight were the best 2 efforts.
Yeah.
By the respect, like as far as a full night viewing, I was able to watch both of these shows in one sitting, and it was very quick and moved.
Okay. All right, we'll get to Nitro, but yeah, for Raw, this is definitely my best Raw grade for sure.
Okay.
All right, so let's do some awards then. Match of the night, I had Jannetty skip.
Me too. Yeah, that was my match of the night.
All right, moment. I'm sick of explaining this, so I'm changing segment of the night to moment of the night right now. So moment, best moment is I have Bulldog and Mabel attacking Undertaker.
I think I'm leaning towards the Clarence Mason explanation.
Okay, yeah,
just
that was
because
good.
Even though that was a cop-out finish for the pay-per-view, the way they did that, and the way they kind of bypassed that so quickly, knowing they were going to do a title change tonight, it sort of retconned a lot of bad taste you may have. I mean, like we talk about in current day, like WWE just loves punishing their fans if you follow the booking.
Right.
Continuously. And this was a way that even if you were pissed off last night, you couldn't be too pissed for long because, I mean, the Smoking Guns just won the title. So a clear difference in how they did things then to now.
Yeah, I don't know how far apart Saginaw and Grand Rapids are, so I wonder if it was a lot of like the same crowd kind of getting the treat of, the...
You saying In Your House 3 became like a weekend destination? Yes. WrestleMania-esque, there was group meetups and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, the early on PTBN meetup, the RSPW, FAQ. Let me see, Saginaw, Michigan, and Grand Rapids. Let's see how close they are. I'm only about 2 hours apart, so yeah. I mean, there could have been a lot of fans in attendance for both, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, that's about like an Augusta, Atlanta situation.
Yeah, it's like a Providence. I was gonna say Fairfield, whatever for Scott Norwalk. So yeah, okay. So that's that. MVP of the night. I want the Guns. Like it was a big night for them. They get the big win. They're repositioned. I thought they worked well in that match, and they get the soapy shower moment at the end. They're elevated up to a level here. I thought they beat Yoko and Owen clean, and they're associated with Shawn and Diesel twice. So I thought it was a big night for them.
I think I'm gonna go with Davey.
Yep.
I haven't given it to him yet. And he's probably the person, like we've talked about, that's been elevated the most on both shows from where he was when we started the podcast to now, really quickly. He's been ramped up the card. And, he looked good. I mean, he looked definitely competent versus Taker as a heel. So,
and even more so for him, if you go 2 weeks before we started, like the week he turns is that week, that one we just mentioned, August 21st, when he turns on Diesel. But even the week before that, if you go, it's like if you go from there to here, it's like amazing how quickly they ramped him up as being legitimate. And part of that is even as a face, he was pretty well protected. He just didn't get pushed. So it was an easy sell. But, I mean, it's a night and day where he was at to now. All right, so for commentary lines of the night, I had two. One was Jerry saying, the Guns remind me of the Dallas Cowboys, a bunch of losers. That made me laugh. And he said he's thinking of putting Bulldog in the pet cemetery. Like, I thought that was a pretty cool line.
Oh, nice.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I didn't really have much. I mean, I thought they were, again, good together, but really the only him mocking Vince after the smoking gun line was the only one of note I took heed of. He did get some shots in. What did he say about the smoke? Oh, he said like the Smoking Guns were emotionally scarred because Gunsmoke got canceled. That's like a classic Jerry line there.
Out of touch line.
Yeah, 1965 show or whatever.
I didn't have any shots fired. So
no, I mean they did push it was live, but that was basically it.
And then I went 6.5 out of 10. I had it equal to In Your House 3 for me. But I thought it was the best Raw so far. So, like, the previous Raw, I had a 6. The first one, we had a 5. And like you said, this was definitely the best offering they've had. So I really dug it. I thought there was a lot here to like. No downtime, really. We had, the only thing missing was, like, a real classic match to boost it. But all the matches are pretty good, so.
Yeah, I did. I went 6 out of 10 on this one. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a good show. I mean, just a good, solid show. Yeah, probably was missing, like, a good match, and while the Guns winning the title is a nice moment, especially at this point in Raw. I mean, there hadn't been a ton of title match changes on Raw.
Right.
By this point, 95, I mean, the Guns winning the tag titles is certainly not one of the more
right.
iconic Raw moments in history by now.
I think this might be the highest you can get a Raw without a big match or moment. Like it was probably the peak.
Yeah.
It was probably like the peak standard Raw. Like there's no all-time classic moment, no all-time classic match, or even like really good match. So like to me, if you're gonna say your matches are gonna top out on the 3 stars and no classic moments, like this is probably like a peak Raw, like what they put on.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
At least in this era, pre like Raw's War era, like
sure,
in the first run. Yeah.
Right. So for debuts, we said we
just
had Mason.
Yep.
Yeah. No dropped angles.
Nothing yet.
Yeah. And then the rating was a 2.7.
Okay.
So a good rating for them. They had a 2.2 on a 9/11, and then the 9/18 was 2.5. So this was a little bit of a bump off of that. And,
Graham has it as 1.9, which seemed off. So man, it must have been a typo.
Yeah, 2.7 was Observer. Okay. So I don't know who I want to trust.
Yeah, Graham might have typoed it or found it somewhere else.
Okay. So there we go. There it is, Raw. Now we can transition over to Nitro. Pull up my notes here.
Okay.
And it was emanated from, Florence, South Carolina, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And why? I have these labeled as 10-2, so I'm a mess here. But it's the 925 notes.
Yeah, it's up there in Florence, yep.
Yeah, so it was in Florence, but they didn't even, that's right. They didn't even show where they were at, like the opening graphic.
Right.
I noticed that, Bischoff, of course, is losing his mind. We are alive! And, but they don't show where they're at, which I thought was interesting. Now, Pepe, his outfit tonight.
What's he got?
He had a saddle and the bandana, of course. The bandana's becoming a Pepe staple, but the saddle was...
Who's riding Pepe?
Was quite an ensemble there. And good Lord, Mongo. I have a lot of Mongo coming up tonight.
Love Mongo.
This was Mongo back to probably his first week of Nitro ways.
He's the best, baby.
Bobby called him a tarantula, called Pepe Tarantula right in the intro there. So that was pretty humorous. I don't know who a tarantula that wears a saddle, but okay. And then Alex Wright Music Hits, which is a guilty pleasure of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And we go right to our first contest, which is Alex Wright versus Disco Inferno. Now, so here, Disco Inferno, are we going to consider that a debut? I was a little iffy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, oh no, was he not on the first Nitro? I guess not, right? So yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't put him down, but I don't know.
He hasn't been on Nitro. I don't know if he's.
No, I think it's going to be
they said he was going to be on Saturday night. So
yeah, no, I don't think so. I think it's going to be a guy coming into the company and debuting on the show.
Okay. Now I know I think I know where Graham got the 1.9. That was the Nitro rating.
Okay, all right. So that's that.
So Nitro,
they got killed, huh?
Yeah, they got pretty demolished here, as we'll get to, which is kind of interesting. I mean, because you have all the big names on this Nitro,
right,
except for one person, no Flair.
True. I think it probably had a lot to do with the pay-per-view, coming off the pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think naturally you're going to get a bump and Raw was live, but yeah, it's a pretty big difference. I mean, that's a dip of 0.5 from the week before when you're talking about ratings in the 2. I mean, that's a 25% dip. That's pretty bad.
So, I think for our debut, it's going to be a guy just returning or coming into the company and making their first appearance on Raw Nitro. So, like Wall Street Works as he was coming back. Disco's been around like for most of '95, right? When did he start?
I mean, he started pretty close around here, but I'm pretty sure he'd been on Saturday night and stuff before. So,
well, see, I'm okay if he's been on other shows. Like if a guy comes in and he's on Superstars and then Raw, like I think we count that. I guess it depends on when he started on TV. Is what I would say.
Don't make me cage match Disco Inferno.
Well, Wiki has him starting in. Let's see if it says. I
really didn't think it was that soon before this, but I mean, it shouldn't take long. All right, I'm on cage match. Let's see when it has. And he was in. I forgot he was in USWA first. Riveting. It shows. I mean, 7-11 was his first Saturday night taping. So, I mean,
that's too much time for me. Too much lag time. It's going to be within like a couple weeks, I think.
He only had, I don't know if that made Saturday night because that was versus Canyon.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he'd only had, according to Cage Match, 5 matches with the company.
All right,
so
it's
pretty soon. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we should.
Okay.
Just because he was on Saturday night, like 9:17, 9:20, stuff like that.
All right, so he's ramping up.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on TV on the different shows. This is just his debut on Nitro. But yeah, it's kind of a little. There's a little bit of trial and error with these debuts, but we'll see as we go. Keep it up. Yeah. Okay. I thought Bischoff and Mongo diss on Disco's music out of the gate. Wright started out this match good. Now I know you're a Wright fanboy, right? Mm-hmm. Which you and Charles share that, and I like Alex Wright a lot too. Yeah. He has a good pair of drop kicks to start off. We get our shots fired right out of the gate from Mongo here, where he says, we already know San Fran's winning that football game, so don't even bother changing the channel. And then Bischoff is like, just put the remote down and don't even bother looking at it. So
he says there's nothing anywhere any better tonight.
Yeah, right. Nothing anywhere. So there we go. Alex Wright hits a really good cross body to the outside. And, this is where Bischoff pleads with people not to pick up the remote. So, pleading. Disco, this was kind of a weird move, but it sort of worked out where it looked like he was going to hit a belly-to-belly suplex, but then he ends up stun gunning right onto the top rope and taking over. We get a little bit of back and forth, and then Alex Wright ends up picking up the win with a roll-up. So I thought, this was pretty quick. I would say this was probably sub 5 minutes. I don't know the time in front of me, but it felt like it was sub 5 minutes.
4 minutes, yeah.
But there we go. But for the time we got, I actually really enjoyed this. I thought Wright looked on point. I mean, Disco, I may end up liking Disco more than most people. He may be a slight guilty pleasure for me. I don't know. Something about the gimmick. It's very, it's certainly very kind of honky-tonk, man.
I liked him at that point. He just got, retrospect, I can't because he just gets so annoying. Like his later era WCW and current day Disco.
Filthy Animals Disco is just deplorable. But
the first couple years, he's fine.
Probably up to when he's facing off with Jacqueline.
You're right, and all that shit.
So but I ended up going to 1.5 stars on this bad boy, so which I really enjoyed it for the 4 minutes that it lasted.
I did like the dropkick by Wright. The springboard was good. Disco's offense is awkward and soft, though. Bobby said Wright is overwhelmed, but Mongo said he's confident. So I like Mongo trying to match wrestling wits with Bobby. Always makes me laugh. Wright, I thought, worked his ass off to feed and set up Disco. Like, he did a ton of that to really try and be in position for him. And I was glad Wright won this because I was afraid that Disco was going to win since this is his first appearance. I think they slowly build him, though. I think he loses a bunch early.
Yeah. I think he's kind of running a loser gimmick,
right?
To start out,
well suited. So, but no, I think it's I like right here. He deserves a push. He was way better. I mean, he looked way better here than Disco. So I went a star, and it was all pretty much right for me. Like, but yes, I am a right mark. I think if we'll see it too because watching all the Nitros like I did over the last few years, like he's a bright spot for me a lot of times. Like he's really good in the ring. I think he's underrated overall.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, because he just didn't do much. I mean, he didn't do hardly nothing after, I mean, even at Berlin or whatever, there wasn't a lot going on.
Well, he gets a blip in 97, or 96 and 97, he kind of bumps up a little bit. He gets into, like, the title mix, and he turns heel, like that.
But never really above, like, TV.
Oh, no.
Level, yeah. I mean, I could have seen him as, if this was WWF, like, IC level at some point. And then we get a good promo in the back with Hogan.
Yep. He's in a neck brace.
He's in the neck brace.
Haven't missed a workout yet, brother.
He says like he is building a bigger and badder monster truck. Basically lays down the challenge for the Giant at Havoc, saying they're going to do a monster truck battle and then a wrestling match afterwards. What you going to do, brother?
No good stinky Giant. He says that again.
Now, we'll say this. I'll defend, I'll prop up Nick Duke a little bit here. Like, this was a pretty generic promo, but I didn't think this was offensive. I mean, the neck brace was a little corny.
Yeah.
But,
it's cheesy. It's cheesy as fuck, but it had his good classic energy behind it. Like, it didn't feel, it felt more like an older Hogan than here. Probably because he's not forced, like he's not out in front of the crowd trying to force shit with like better actors. He's just by himself. But no, it's fine. And I mean, he says he's going to lay the Giant to rest next to his father, and which is funny. And Hogan will become immortal Halloween Havoc when they go machine versus machine.
Yeah, we didn't have as much Andre as certainly the Giant's father from the commentary in this show, but yeah, Hogan still lays it on.
He says he's going to kill him and put him in the ground next to his dad. It's like a fucking hell of a line, a buried Hogan line right here, but it's fine. I mean, the neck brace is wicked fucking goofy though. Like they couldn't find a little like tighter, like a smaller one. Like his neck is like big as it is, and he's got this giant fucking horse collar brace on his neck. It's absurd.
Jimmy Hart dancing kind of around him. Yeah, that neck brace. I watched this documentary called Evil Geniuses, which is about the pizza bomber case from 2003, which I wasn't familiar with. But in that, like, he has basically a bomb neck collar, and the model they show for this neck collar that was a bomb was about as big as what Hogan's wearing for this promo.
He's got it on there.
I connected the two because I watched them back to back. Very weird. But yeah, so that's it. So we do have our Havoc main event though. There we go.
Man versus man, machine versus machine.
Machine versus machine. Oh boy. And then we get segment 2. Now this is the stuff that I'm really digging for WCW. We didn't get any Kid versus Razor much from Raw. They did say they would meet next week, but not a whole lot tonight.
Raw is very it's not an every week show at this point with stuff like you said, Brett. So like the next week it's almost like they flip stuff. Like we might not get as much Diesel, but we'll get Brett and we'll get Razor Kid. So they kind of alternate angles sometimes on Raw. It's not every week. Nitro so far has been pretty much weekly with the big angles.
Yeah, you're gonna get some Dungeon of Doom stuff. You're gonna get some Horseman stuff and stuff like that. So segment 2 is about Luger and Savage. We get a clip from last week. Lex is still straight up. And then we go back live, and Savage is just nuts. He's like, I want Luger, and I want him now. Like the crowd's going ape.
Yeah.
Lex comes out. I thought there was some great heat when they went head-to-head here. And Luger said he's been thumbs down on him since the start, and he's sick and tired of it.
He said Sting and Hogan respect him. He said he wants that respect.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And offers a challenge for next week and says he'll put his title shot on the line in that challenge And then he says he'll go one further. If he doesn't beat Savage next week, he will leave the WCW.
That's right.
So we got that.
We're back to playing with kids.
So we had another good back and forth. I'm enjoying these two together. They're dynamic. I still think it's good. Even at the end, like Macho kind of offers his hand and Luger sort of shoves him, and leaves, which I thought was good. But a problem with this, and I had a problem with the commentators here, because while this is going on, and this should be like one of your top feuds, what the hell is Eric talking about but machine versus machine on Havoc? Right after that. Like, he doesn't let anything that we just saw process. He goes right into Halloween Havoc. It's going to be machine versus machine. And then Eric informs us Hogan's getting his monster truck built by the same people that built Bigfoot. And we get our first visual, which is some of my favorite visual, of Hogan and the Giant morphing from their pictures into monster trucks.
Oh, it's the best. One of the cheesiest fucking promo clips ever. It's just them. The promos for Halloween Havoc are the best. It's a lot. They try and do this spooky stuff, but it comes off as so bad and so cheesy.
Yeah, really awful here. Yeah. And thankfully we don't get too much more of that. But our second segment is Pittman versus. Well, our second match is Sergeant Craig Pittman versus Kurosawa.
And I want to just add too, I loved Luger's fire in that interview segment.
Okay, yeah,
his fire was real good. He was really fired up. I thought it may be the best we've actually seen of him since his return. Seems like he's kind of get figured out now again.
Right. So Sergeant Craig versus Kurosawa. Kurosawa is Manabu Nakanishi, who is still wrestling to this day for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's practically crippled now. You have never seen a slower man in the ring than Nakanishi currently. Now this match, I'll tell you about this match. Pittman gives him a headbutt to the stomach right away. Kurosawa comes back, and Bobby says this is the best wrestler from Japan he's ever seen. So some great hyperbole from Bobby right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Kurosawa gives Pittman a backdrop on the concrete, though, and it made a nasty sound when he does that. That was a great-looking spot. And we get an all-time Mongo line from that he says that splattered like Grandma out of the wheelchair when that happens.
It's poor Grandma. She's either fucking herself in the bathroom or
in the hen house.
She's all over the place.
On the floor. Yeah, Grandma's either hostage in the bathroom or getting splattered. So Pittman, I thought, was getting his ass kicked throughout this match. Sergeant does get a back body drop over the top rope to the floor. Patrick decides not to call a DQ for that. And then Sergeant Craig starts working over the arm by driving it into the apron on the outside. Pittman sends him back inside, arm first. A really kind of rough and tumble back and forth match between these two. It was stiff. We get a nice belly-to-belly from Sergeant Craig Pittman. And then the code red is locked on, and Kurosawa gets to the ropes, which I thought was a great tease over a submission that's been built up well. But again, while this is going on, they're talking about the monster trucks, which really drove me nuts. Bischoff was, I thought, dreadful on this show. Just over the top and just too much focused on Hogan and whatever.
Yeah, he can't leave Nitro soon enough. Trust me, it's a while, but he can't.
Yeah. It's very just enough is enough with that. Pittman flips Kurosawa over when he goes for a submission again, and then we get a German suplex from Kurosawa to get the pin. Now, were you surprised that Sergeant Craig Pittman lost here?
Yeah, I mean, all right. So I'll give my thoughts on that, and then we'll talk about that. But Eric also tells us Kurosawa broke Hawk's arm recently. I think that might have been at the Clash, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So they talk about that, and we get it here. Kurosawa works the arm. He takes some real nasty bumps into the apron as well as that the backdrop driver, which was gross. I hated the ending. I thought it was awkward and the way they did it, and I think it's a bad loss for Pittman. He was hot. He was looking real good here, too, in this match. He's coming off the destruction of Cobra. He's been pushed pretty well. And I don't know. They don't seem to be pushing Kurosawa, so it just felt like a 50-50 kind of thing. And I thought the match that was real good. Like, it was hard fought, it was hard hitting, quality brawl. But the finish kind of took it down for me. Both Pittman losing and the way they executed it. So yeah, I was surprised he lost.
What rating did you go for?
2 stars.
I went 2.5 on
Wow,
this
okay.
thing.
Yeah, you really liked it.
I really enjoyed it. Like,
Yeah.
it was, I put shockingly good match. I
It
mean,
was stiff. Yeah, it was real stiff.
Yeah. I mean, stiffness is always something that resonates with me because, you know.
Yes. Resonates with all of us, buddy.
Right. So, good Lord. But yeah, I mean, there's some really sick bumps, and Pittman's look good. I mean, to me, like, he's a little awkward, but as we talked about, that kind of plays into it. Like, the matches have a realness to them that a lot of other matches don't.
Yeah, I liked it. It was only 4.5 minutes, too, so they worked a lot in.
So again, not much of a hidden gem, but I would say, like, if you're following along with us, which I know some listeners are, I'm interested to get other people's thoughts on this because
should we have a hidden gem column and like a spotlight column or something like just under the hidden gem, like on the surface gem or something?
I mean, I think eventually we'll get to where we have some good hidden. I mean, if we have, in a given year, if we have 20 to 25 matches that we consider hidden gems, that's good enough. I mean, I don't think a list of 100 matches. I mean, I would say this match is one, like, if you're watching
it's worth checking out.
Yeah, if you're watching it kind of comprehensively, then it's like, oh, what a pleasant surprise. But it's not something where it's like you need to sub to the network to watch this match. So
no, sub to the network anyway. It's a good deal.
Yeah. So then we get an Arn and Pillman promo. Arn's jacket. He was wearing that bomber jacket. And Pillman is all fired up here. It's like he was on a 10 here. Complete kind of loose cannon. Pillman says Flair's at an all-time low looking for a partner. He's groveling like a gutter slime panhandling for pocket change in Times Square, which was funny. And then I like the contrast between that and the cerebralness of Arn. He gave a very kind of stern promo right after Pillman's hyped up promo.
Yep.
Where he says, like, the better man won, and that if you jump on him, you jump on us, and Flair should know that. And then I really like that Arn said he excels in tag situations. So that, built up the tag match they're having at Havoc with Arn saying, this is my specialty. So now, I beat you once before, and now you're challenging me to my specialty, and you can't find a partner. So a good promo here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Pillman laughing off Gene's accusations. I love the gutter slime was great. And Pillman's heel turns have been so good. Like, he's just being a real douche about Flair looking for a partner. I did love Arn saying he excels in tags and call Flair nuts with the people he's asking to be his partner. He says Ric Flair basically says he spent 10 years fucking over everyone, but now he doesn't have Arn to back him up anymore. So, like, I thought that was really good too. He's like, basically, I was your bitch boy for 10 years because you picked all these fights and I was there to back you up, and now you got no one. So I thought it was really well done.
There was a lot of empty seats, like, right on camera for this promo. Like, I don't know what happened, whether, like, a big group or family went to the concessions or what, but that was kind of unfortunate. That, like, right behind Arn, you saw, like, 5 or 6 just completely empty seats. But, good promo. And that leads us into our next segment, which is Randy Savage versus the Taskmaster. Kevin Sullivan, brother. Zodiac is out, acting like a complete idiot. I hate the Zodiac. I really do.
He takes the worst of Hogan and makes it worse.
Yeah,
like
you talk about a
and everything.
bumbling idiot. This is the Zodiac right now. He attacks Savage right away. Posts him on the outside. Bobby says that Pepe smells right here. Savage gets crotched on the guardrail and clothesline. We did get our first word of the Big Boys play by Mongo, and that was the only one I caught tonight, so they did do good on cutting that down. We only got one from Mongo here. Savage punches away, Sullivan punches away, sends Savage to the outside again. Savage starts mounting his comeback with a backdrop on the floor. And then We get another great line on commentary where we hear, I hope Hogan takes that neck brace off and sticks it up somewhere that he ain't seen sunshine on that monster since he's been born. So that was quite a visual there. Now, the finish of this match I thought was awful.
Yeah.
Because Zodiac is in the ring. Like, he's in the ring trying to interfere and has interfered. And he's literally in the ring. Savage gets up in Pee Wee Anderson's face, shoves him down, and then Pee Wee calls the DQ against Savage. When you had somebody else in the ring trying to interfere on his opponent's behalf. So
that was stupid.
That made no sense. Savage, after the match, do you have any thoughts on the match? I gave it 3/4 a star, and then I guess we can talk about the post-match, which was much better.
Yeah, no, not too much. I mean, they used Zodiac to get Sullivan control. I thought Sullivan looked pretty vicious in his brief time on top, and then the finish was dumb. So, yeah, not much to say about the match itself. I went Savage, Sullivan, yeah, this can't be right. I put 1.5 stars, but I think I meant half a star. I'm gonna fix that right now. There's no way I put 1.5 stars.
Big fan. This is your first hit in gym.
Yeah, because it's only how long is it? 2:58. Yeah, there's no way.
I mean, Sullivan's punches did look good. Yeah,
I probably dyslexia there.
Zodiac wandering around was pretty rough. But the post match I liked. So Savage is attacking them. He tries to give an elbow to both Sullivan and Zodiac when they were basically in the 69 position to a degree. But Sullivan rolls out of the way.
Yeah, he dodges the double stack.
Yeah, so he ends up giving the elbow to Zodiac only. Here comes the Giant. Mongo says for somebody to get a can of green beans to distract this guy. We got a choke slam for Savage, and then a jobber comes out to help, and he gets choke slammed. Mark Starr comes out. He gets choke slammed. Your boy, Alex Wright, tries a dive from the top and right into a bear hug. The bell was ringing continuously during all this. Finally, Lex Luger comes out. Sullivan, actually, one of his better acting work, I thought, was when Luger came out here, because they cut to Sullivan laughing, and it's a pretty cool visual. And Savage gets choke slams again right before Luger enters the ring. Luger kind of straddles Savage standing over him. But then he punches the Giant and gets choke slammed. And we have a cool moment where the Taskmaster is upset that the Giant attacked Luger. So that's again playing into the fact that Luger may be joining the Dungeon of Doom sooner rather than later. So I enjoyed that, and I thought Giant looked like a monster here.
Yes.
I thought he looked really impressive. His choke slams he was doing, he would go to the ground with them, so they looked really impactful. And I thought this was a great segment for him to look like a threat.
Yeah, I thought he looked awesome here. I really liked this post-match. I thought he looked fantastic. I thought Savage looked great, too, just insane, no control, losing his mind, going after everybody. And then Giant comes out, wipes him out, like you said, kills everyone with real aggression. He's not just waiting for them to come to him. He's just, going at them. And I like the Luger stuff, too, where he's kind of mocking Savage, but Giant grabs him, and then Luger starts punching him, and he gets a choke slam. So, no, I liked all of it. And it kind of bleeds into the next segment, too, which we'll talk about. So, the match was shit, but the post-match, everything about it was real good. It makes Giant just look like a badass.
Yeah, I thought this was really good, and enjoyed that. And yeah, like you said, it transitions beautifully into our main event, because they go to commercial break. They come back from commercial break with Meng basically running as fast as Meng runs, kind of jogging, jogging down the aisleway. All he needed was a windbreaker on. And he starts attacking Luger. We learn that Hogan's going to be on Nitro next week.
I hope he has the neck brace on.
And Meng gets a nice pile driver for 2. I thought the crowd was getting behind Luger well here. Mm-hmm. And then Luger fires back a bit, but gets gut wrenched. That looked a little awkward, but also looked pretty impactful.
Yep.
I didn't know whether Meng was supposed to drop him on his knee or what, but looked a little off, but actually looked like it hurt too. It was here that I did notice the Nitro aprons were the traditional ones that we're used to.
Yeah, so not the LED things anymore or whatever.
Yeah, so they've already scratched the spotlight under the ring shining out. Meng slows things down with a chin lock. Then we get the big comeback from Luger, but Meng hits the clothesline in the corner, but he ends up hurting himself. Luger hits Meng with a clothesline in the corner, but he hurt himself. He's selling that. And while he's selling that, Meng takes out a spike, hits Luger with it, and then gets the surprise win. And I was shocked that Meng won this match. I did not remember this at all, but I was shocked Meng won. So another pretty good main event. I ended up ranking this the same as the Undertaker Davey Boy Smith match, actually. Another 2-star match, but I enjoyed this one as well.
Yeah, no, this was a good one. I really enjoyed it. Meng, I went star 3/4, so just to touch on you, but I definitely enjoyed it. Meng really dominated this one, and he's always been well protected and well presented as well. I think that works too. In that it's a shocking loss, but at least it's to someone like Meng and not like a joker. Meng has always been presented as dangerous and vicious. So him coming out here with Luger in a beaten state is real dangerous. And he really dominated this. But like you said, lots of plugs for next week all through the match. Really just basically a squash, which I thought was fine because Luger's banged up. He's a bit too long. I thought the match was a bit too long, but it was fine. But, he's banged up. He was hurt from the Giant attack. And I actually was surprised. I was happy that they did it this way, that Luger didn't come back and win anyway, I like that they went with it and really sold that Giant, fucked him up, and now Meng took advantage. And I also like that Bobby actually name drops WWF at the end. As they're closing, he's saying Lex left there to play with the big boys, and here it is. So he actually says the WWF.
Oh, nice.
Which was kind of interesting. So it's not really a shot. It's just like a comment. He just says, I think he says Lex left the WWF to come play with the big boys, and basically he got what he asked for. So I thought that was interesting.
Right. Yeah, I missed that, but that's cool. That's cool. And that's really the show. I mean, they do this weird thing. We did get one more Mongo line. But just a quick wrap up at the end, and Mongo says something's rotten in Denmark, and it stinks worse than what Pepe left on your shoe brain. So, Pepe took a shit on Bobby's shoe, but there we go. Thus ends another edition of Nitro.
Yep, it sure does.
So let's get into our awards for that. Match of the night. Now, what are you going with? I think there might be a couple of options here.
I went with Kurosawa Pittman. Was my match.
Okay. Well, I love that one, so I agree with that.
Okay.
Now, your moment of the night. What was that?
I went with the Giants attack. I thought that was the best segment. It was hot. It was main event level. It was key, and he really did a good number. The Savage Luger promo is right there too, but this was it.
Okay, I agree with that as well. I thought Giant looked awesome. Your MVP?
My MVP of the night was the Giant.
Okay, I agree. We're 3 for 3 here.
There you
go. Yeah, I mean, like we said, I think, they're building him up, and for this to literally be his debut, and he's inserted right into a main event program, I think he's handled himself well, really well so far.
Yeah, extremely well. Has he been on Nitro yet?
Impressive. On Nitro, I don't know. I guess, if you count last week when he came out of the ambulance.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have his debut. I guess, did he technically debut at Fall Brawl? Where was his first, I guess he was in the dungeon, right? Was his first time?
I mean, the first time he was ever seen was at Bash at the Beach or whatever.
Oh, right. All right. Yeah.
Or it's either Great American Bash or Bash at the Beach. He's ringside for one of those.
All right, so we're not going to. I didn't know if we should put his debut in any of these.
He'd been lingering for about as long as Disco Inferno.
Right.
So those two. Arm in arm.
So I had a couple of quotes that made me laugh that we haven't mentioned. One is Mongo says, Hogan will ball drag Giant around the arena. And Bobby says, what's that mean? And then Mongo says he's evil incarnate, which I think he was saying about Sullivan. But the way he said it made me laugh. Yeah.
Great Mongo performance tonight. So,
and we already did the shots fired. The only one I caught was the Niners, and Bischoff says nothing anywhere better tonight.
Yeah, Mongo can not help himself. He's making football references every week.
Oh yeah, well, that's all he knows. It's like when
it's like we all know San
Fran.
I should see I'm gonna look at the San Francisco record real quick while you give your grade.
Oh, I was actually just looking at what the game was. Hang on, I already got to pull it up here.
Because he was so confident San Francisco was going to win, it'd be funny if they lost.
All right, let me see the schedule results here really quick. I can pull up the.
I would just love it if they lost that game. They did.
Did they?
Yeah. They lost to the Detroit Lions 24-27.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, this was early in the season, though. So, what were they, like 3-0 or something?
It's week 4. Yeah. And Mongo was so confident. I mean, his direct quote is, "We all know San Fran is going to win that game, so don't even
He was like
a
Emmy Award-winning sports analyst, right? All right, so the Niners were 3-0, and that was the Lions were 0-3. So I mean, it's probably not the worst prediction.
No, but it's just funny, like in retrospect.
The Niners had beaten the Saints, Falcons, and Patriots leading up. They had just beaten the Patriots 28-3 leading into this one. So.
Oh, that's so great.
Quick, do you know remember who the coaches were for those teams?
For the 49ers,
yeah,
was it Seifert?
Yep.
Yeah. For the Lions, God, I have no idea.
Any guess?
Oh, Bobby Ross.
Wayne Fonts.
Oh, when was Bobby Ross?
I think he was before Fonts, wasn't he? Oh, no, was he after Fonts? He might have been after Fonts.
Well, there we go.
Well, let's see. Fonts was there from 88 to 96, so yeah, it had to be right after Fonts, probably.
Okay, cool.
Well, yeah, because wasn't he with the Chargers?
Oh, yeah. He was with the Lions, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I think he was with the Chargers when they went to the Super Bowl, wasn't he? Wasn't he the coach?
Yes, he was. And was that
he went to the Lions in 97. So he was with the Chargers from 92 to 96, and then 97 to 2000 he was with the Lions. So
okay. Well, there we go. Georgia Tech coach Bobby Ross led them to a national championship, which is kind of weird. But there you have it. So, and as we mentioned, this got a 1.9, so a pretty bad rating.
Yeah.
But as we talked about with both shows, they set up a lot for next week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what was your grade? I'm sorry, the overall.
Let's do our overall grades. I went 6 out of 10 on this one too. Like, I don't think we had. I mean, I don't know. This was a weird show because it had a lot of kind of underneath talent in it, but I just sort of enjoyed it. There was something about it that it really hummed along and kind of struck a chord with me. Where like the Pittman Kurosawa match was a surprise. I thought Alex Wright was energetic. The Giant looked great. The Luger, I like the Luger Savage interactions, and then I liked the Pillman Arn promo. It was short but sweet. So I went 6 out of 10 too on this one.
I had 5.5, but the more we've talked about it and kind of gone through it, I'm gonna go up to a 6. I think more happened than I thought. I think I watched this in 2 installments, so maybe I didn't get like the full flow of it. But you're right, a lot went down. I forgot how much I like the Giant segment. I had Raw a tick higher. But I think it's so like Nitro last week I had as a 5. And the first week we did was a 5.5, and I thought this was definitely the best of the 3. So I think 6 feels about right.
Yeah, I did not like the Nitro that much last week. I was probably a little too tough on it, but I did think this was a step up. But I guess we now need to do our combo awards.
Yep.
So I think we'll both say Raw was the show of the week, right? I had them both graded the same, but Raw was probably the best of the 2.
Yeah, if you're going to do our composite, it's a notch higher anyway, so...
Best match on both shows.
I would probably say Jannetty Skip.
Yep, I agree with that. Now our best segment for both shows on that, I would say the Giant.
Yes, yeah, because our segment was the Bulldog attack for me, and you had which one for you?
Mason, Mason and Cornette.
Giant's attack was big. It was they were both main event. Both shows had good main event level heel beatdowns, so that was good. You could tell they're reestablishing, but no, Giants was real classic.
Commentary, even though we had a lot of Mongo lines, I'd say Raw pretty easily. Because Bischoff drove me nuts. He really
Bischoff's
did.
Awful. Vince is way more. This. I always, me, I'm a Vince commentary stan, but this Vince, this stretch here kind of shows his worth. He gets is he corny and cheesy at times? Yes, but he knows exactly how to get all the stories over, and he doesn't beat him into you like Bischoff has been doing. Everything tells its own story, and him and Lawler have pretty good chemistry, and they're both they're cheesy, but it's fucking 1995, so whatever. But I agree. I think this kind of shows Vince's chops here that he's just outclassing Bischoff every week.
Star of the night for both shows.
Giant, I think.
Yeah, I think Giant. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Bulldogs are close, but I mean, Giant. Bulldogs at least been established, before. Like this, really, Giant's working his way to being established as the main event guy, and this was like a big moment for him.
Yeah, and I mean, the Dungeon of Doom, the other members, like we talk about how Zodiac is so stupid, and the other, Kamala and everybody else running around. I mean, Meng's okay, but there's not a lot of threats in the Dungeon of Doom. So for the Giant to still look threatening, being associated with that group, not the easiest task either.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about Raw won the ratings overall. So, but a pretty good week of shows. I was excited watching that, and I was looking forward to next week. So next week we got on Nitro? We have Savage versus Luger, and Flair versus Arn.
Yes. And so Hogan in the house. Don't forget, most importantly.
Hogan in the house. Yes. Exactly. The main thing.
And has Raw been... I don't think they announced anything for Raw.
No, they did. They did say it would be Kid versus Razor next week. I don't know if they said it would be Lafitte versus Brett, but we also have that on tap. So they're really gearing up here.
So we'll see how those play out. So that will be our next episode. We'll be looking at the 10-2 Nitro and Raw. So we ended up doing this one, Chad, quicker than we thought after In Your House, so we didn't get a chance to put a feedback thread up. We happened to find some common time, so we wanted to get it in. So we should have a feedback thread up for the October 2nd week of Nitro and Raw for everyone to share. So no comments there from anyone. We want to thank you already for the comments coming in on the In Your House episode, though. We get some really nice ones as well. So I'm glad everyone's enjoying the show. It's been a lot of fun to do. I look forward to watching these things because, like we said, Chad, there aren't stuff we've watched. I know to some Twitter experts, I know the Attitude Era seems like it's been beaten to death, but I feel like the way we're doing it is, at least in our circle, is kind of unique because I haven't watched a lot of this stuff and talked about it. Like I've seen some of these Raws a million times, but I haven't. We haven't like sat and broken it down week to week. So to me that's unique for us, and I'm enjoying it because it's fresh territory.
Well, that's what I hope. My explanation on the pilot episode.
Mm-hmm.
I hope to describe that because, I think now we have such a wide breadth of wrestling history that's pretty easily accessible that any era that you invest in,
mm-hmm.
You're going to find worthwhile stuff or stuff you forgot. Like we have so much stuff now that, even if you just say, all I'm watching for the rest of my life is WWE or WWF. You have such a history on the network that, if you watched one Raw a day, you're going to be doing that for the next 4 years. Next 4 years. So by that time, 4 years from now, you've probably forgotten some stuff that happened in the very first Raws. So you just go back and rewatch it again. And that's just Raw. That's on the network. So obviously, like, everybody knows Tyson and Austin and Goldberg winning the title, and some of these moments we'll get to, some of the seminal moments. But right here at the beginning, really, to me, from this point in time, I know Luger debuted, and I know he was kind of in this feud, and I know exactly what happens at, the end game with him. But, week to week, watching this Luger and Savage stuff has been entertaining. Watching stuff like Davey Boy Smith's Elevation's been entertaining. Yoko still being prominent.
And you're going to get a lot of one-offs, too. Random shit that you don't remember. Guys that show up on Raw or Nitro. And I'm not sure I justify, but I'm just saying I'm really enjoying the trip so far. Because it's stuff that hasn't been, at least in my, for me, I haven't been through it a million times. And even though I've seen the 96 Raws a lot, I haven't watched them in probably a decade. So I'll probably have forgotten some stuff. And the 96 Nitros will be, kind of newish. And there's a lot of fun stuff in here. So, and you know what? You and I have never sat and talked about it. So I'm looking forward to that, too, that part of it. So we did have one seminal moment tonight. That was the load on Billy Gunn's chest. But anyway, beyond all that. So anyway, hopefully everyone's enjoying listening, and we do encourage. I know a lot of listeners are watching along with us, so it's a fun way to do it because I like getting your feedback, and we'll read it on air as you're watching too. So feel free to share whether it's what we're talking about that night or what we talked about the week before, or whatever you want to share when we put the feedback thread up. Feel free to do so, and we'll read it here because it's a fun journey to do together. So we're not just looking for your memories, which are great too, but if you're joining us on the journey, that's great.
Sure. Yeah. Entertaining.
So, all right. So that's it then. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this episode. We'll be back hopefully soon. We'll keep churning them out when we can. We'll look at those October 2nd episodes as we start to close in on the next set of pay-per-views. So that's Chad. I'm JT. We're out. Talk to you soon. Remember to smell the napalm.
And always remember to value steps.